go on the record here, and I guess that's what I'm planning to do here this evening. This City Council is being asked to create new civil rights and protections based upon sexual orientation. The first question is do we have the authority to do this? Our oath of office states that we are to support and defend the city charter, Michigan, and U.S. constitutions. Now, as Mrs. Hughes brought up, the city charter is silent relative to civil rights. However, Section 1.2, the third sentence in the city charter reads, "The powers of the city under this charter shall be construed liberally in favor of the city, and specific mention of particular powers shall not be construed as limiting in any way the general power of the city." Now, the sentence right before that, the second sentence of the city charter reads that the city and its officers shall have the power to exercise any and all municipal powers in the management and control of municipal property. Well, as Mr. Weber indicated, we all know what the voters, by a large margin, felt relative to our management of city or municipal properties as it relates to parks. And so the voters last November, again by a large margin, chose to change or reduce very specific powers that have been historically exercised by the city. And so now we are to assume that those very same voters who chose to reduce very specific powers exercised by the city now want us to liberally construe new powers in an area where we have historically never regulated, and that is the private businesses. For the sake of discussion, let's assume that those voters do want us to construe a new protected class of residents based on sexual orientation to create a new claim right or obligation directed at employers and landlords that they would owe to new claim right holders. Well, what rights and protections are owed to the employers and landlords? You see, someone owns those jobs, someone owns those properties that are being sought by the new claim right holders. Should property rights be subordinated to a new claim right? Well, over 340 years ago, John Locke wrote about natural rights of life, liberty, and estate. About 100 years after that, Thomas Jefferson massaged that a little bit and wrote about our endowed rights, our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And according to John Adams, property is surely a right of mankind as really as liberty. So should this governing body liberally construe authority to create a new claim right at the expense of endowed, unalienable property rights? Well, James Madison answered that. Government is instituted to protect property of every sort. That is its end. So, we are being asked to assume that the voters want us to liberally construe new authority to regulate private businesses, and we should do so in complete disregard of Locke, Jefferson, Madison, and Adams. Now, the Michigan Constitution in Article 1, Section 2, very specifically grants civil rights authority to the state legislature. If you believe the state's civil rights laws should be expanded to include sexual orientation, I believe you should go to the people that possess the constitutional authority to do so. I will go on the record as stating that I simply cannot and will not vote for a newly created claim right at the expense of our endowed and unalienable property rights. Thank you, Mr. Hooper.